Within the vast expanse of the Galactic Medical Center, orbiting the neutral planet of Center Prime, Dr. Brian Carter found himself facing a dilemma that could potentially upend everything he thought he knew about the field of medical science. His compound eyes twitched anxiously as he studied the holographic data before him. The information in front of him defied every core principle of xenobiology that he had spent his entire career mastering. "By the sacred spores of fungia," he muttered, his antennae drooping in disbelief. "This cannot be right." Dr. Clara Williams, his Civari colleague, slithered over, leaving a glistening trail of moisture in her wake. "What's going on, Brian? You look like you've just seen a ghost, or worse, a tax collector." Brian's mandibles clicked in frustration. "If only it were as simple as that, Clara. You need to take a look at these readings for patient 217, the human female." Clara's translucent body rippled as she leaned in to examine the data. Her bioluminescent spots blinked rapidly, signaling complete confusion. This is impossible," she gurgled, her voice bubbling with disbelief. "According to this, she's gone from being terminal to practically tap dancing in less than a single solar cycle." "Exactly," Brian responded, his exoskeleton humming with a mixture of excitement and exasperation. "Yesterday, she was teetering on the edge of death, and today, she's barreling through the door and celebrating like it's New Year's Eve." As if on cue, the medbay doors hissed open, and the subject of their concern entered the room. Emma Johnson, patient 2177, walked in with a bounce in her step, an energy that completely contradicted her recent struggle with death. Her Varithian hair was loosely tied back in a messy ponytail, and her bright green eyes sparkled with playful mischief. "Hey there, Doc," she called out with a wide grin. "What's the good news? Am I free to fly out of here? Or do I still need to hang around this space AG sneezer for a little longer?" Brian and Clara exchanged bewildered looks, their alien features twisting in what could only be described as utter confusion. "Miss Johnson," Brian began, carefully trying to hold back his mandibles from clicking nervously, "I'm not sure you fully comprehend the severity of your situation. Just yesterday, you were infected with Relian flux, a disease with a mortality rate of 99.9% across all known species. The level of cellular degradation you were experiencing should have reduced you to nothing more than a puddle of organic sludge." Emma's grin only grew wider. "Well, I've always been called thick-headed," she said, winking. "Guess my cells decided to be stubborn, too." Clara's form rippled once more, making a sound that could be mistaken for laughter, or indigestion, as Civari were often hard to read. "Miss Johnson, while we do appreciate your unique human sense of humor, this is a serious matter. We've never encountered anyone recovering from Relian flux, let alone in such a short time. It's unprecedented." "Unprecedented schmunded," Emma waved off, her expression dismissive. "Look, I feel great. No, scratch that. I feel amazing. I could run a marathon, climb a mountain, and still have enough energy left over for a night of dancing. So what's the holdup?" Brian's antennae twitched in frustration. "The problem, as you so casually put it, is that we have no idea how any of this happened. For all we know, you could still be contagious, or the disease could simply be lying dormant, ready to strike again at any moment." Emma rolled her eyes in a manner that both fascinated and slightly disturbed her alien caregivers. "Come on, Doc. You've run every test imaginable, and probably invented a few just for me. If there was something wrong, you'd have found it by now." Though Brian hated to admit it, she was right. They had subjected Emma to every diagnostic test known to galactic medicine, plus a few still considered theoretical. By all measures, she was in perfect health, at least for a human. Clara's bioluminescent spots pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've been approaching this from the wrong angle. Instead of continuing to look for what might still be wrong, we should be focusing on how this miracle came about in the first place." Brian's compound eyes widened with realization. "You're not suggesting—" "Oh yes, I am," Clara responded, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "It's time we brought in Dr. Nathaniel Stone." Emma looked between them, clearly puzzled. "Dr. Stone? That sounds ominous. Is this where you reveal that you've been fattening me up for some eldritch horror to feast upon?" Brian chittered, the sound coming out as an approximation of a chuckle. "Nothing so dramatic, I assure you. Dr. Stone is our foremost expert in anomalous xenobiology. If anyone can uncover the mystery of your recovery, it's him. Great, Emma sighed dramatically, flopping back onto her bio-bee with exaggerated resignation. Just what I've always wanted, to become a medical mystery. Couldn't I have been a riddle wrapped in an enigma instead? I hear those are all the rage these days. As Clara slithered off to contact Dr. Stone, Brian marveled at the human's ability to retain her sense of humor, even in the face of such extraordinary circumstances. It was a trait he had observed in many of the humans he treated over the years, but Emma seemed to elevate it to an entirely new level. "Miss Johnson," he said, his voice softening as much as his insectoid physiology would allow, "I understand this must be frustrating for you, but please understand, what has happened to you could have far-reaching consequences for the entire galaxy. If we can figure out how you survived Relian Flux, we could potentially save countless lives." For a moment, Emma's expression became more serious. "I get it, Doc. I really do. But here's the thing, I came out here to explore the stars. You know, to boldly go where no man or woman has gone before. Instead, I've spent the last week being poked, prodded, and analyzed from every possible angle." Brian's antennae drooped slightly, conveying his sympathy. "I assure you, Miss Johnson, we're doing everything in our power to resolve this as quickly as possible. In the meantime, perhaps we could arrange for some entertainment. I believe we've got a collection of human literature and visual media in our cultural exchange database," Brian remarked. Emma's eyes instantly lit up. "Now you're talking. Got any classic sci-fi? The irony of watching old Earth space operas while I'm actually in space is just too perfect." As Brian set up the entertainment terminal for Emma, the medbay doors slid open again. Dr. Nathaniel Stone entered, his ethereal form glowing with a light that seemed to warp the space around him. As a member of the enigmatic luminous species, Stone's true form was nearly impossible for most beings to comprehend, let alone describe. "Greetings, colleagues," Stone's voice echoed in their minds, bypassing the need for speech. "I gather we have quite a puzzle on our hands." Emma sat up, her eyes wide, a mix of awe and trepidation on her face. "Whoa! When you said expert in anomalous xenobiology, you weren't joking. Are you sure you're a doctor and not some kind of space wizard?" Stone's form rippled slightly, possibly amused. "I assure you, Miss Johnson, my abilities are based on science, though they may appear unorthodox to some species." Clara, who had returned with Stone, quickly updated him on Emma's case. As she spoke, Stone's form pulsed and shifted, and soft chimes echoed intermittently, seeming to respond to the key points in the explanation. "Fascinating." Stone's mental voice resonated with excitement. "The universe truly never ceases to amaze. Miss Johnson, with your permission, I would like to perform a few more tests. I promise they will be non-invasive and painless." Emma shrugged, clearly unfazed. "At this point, what's one more test? Go ahead, Doc. Do your worst or best, I suppose." Stone expanded, tendrils of light stretching toward Emma. As they gently touched her skin, she felt a warm, tingling sensation. It wasn't unpleasant, but definitely something otherworldly. "Remarkable," Stone murmured, his voice tinged with wonder. "Your cellular structure, it's unlike anything I've encountered. The Relian flux hasn't been purged from your system. It's been assimilated." Brian's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "Assimilated? But that's impossible. Relian flux completely destroys cellular structures. It doesn't merge with them." "Apparently Miss Johnson's body didn't receive that particular instruction," Clara bubbled, her form rippling with excitement. Emma glanced at her hands, half expecting to see some visible change. "So what does this mean? Am I some sort of superhuman now? Ooh, do I get cool powers? Can I shoot lasers from my eyes?" Stone's form pulsed again, and it might have been laughter. "I'm afraid not, Miss Johnson. However, your body has done something truly extraordinary. Instead of succumbing to the flux, your cells have adapted, using the aggressive replication properties of the disease to amplify your natural healing abilities." "In simpler terms," Brian interrupted, his scientific curiosity now outweighing his initial skepticism, "you've turned a deadly disease into a symbiotic process. Your immune system is functioning at levels we've never seen in any species." Emma whistled in amazement. "Well, that's something. So does this mean I'm going to live forever? Because honestly, I'm not sure I'm cut out for immortality. Sounds like a lot of pressure, you know? Clara's bioluminescent spots pulsed rapidly. It's too soon to determine the long-term effects. We'll need to continue monitoring your condition with more tests over time. More tests? Emma groaned, flopping back onto her bio-D. I'm starting to think you all just enjoy poking me with needles. Stone's form shimmered sympathetically. I understand your frustration, Miss Johnson. But please understand, what has happened to you could revolutionize our understanding of disease and immunity across the galaxy. The potential impact is immeasurable. Emma sat up, her expression turning serious. All right, I get it. This is bigger than just me, but I have one condition: no dissections, no being locked away in a lab for the rest of my life, and definitely no breeding program to create an army of super-immune humans. I've read enough sci-fi to know how that kind of story ends. And trust me, it's never pretty. The alien doctors exchanged glances, their various appendages and light patterns communicating amusement and respect. You have our word, Miss Johnson, Brian said, his mandibles clicking in a way that resembled a smile among his species. We are scientists, not monsters. Our goal is to help, not exploit. Besides, Clara added with a ripple of mirth, I shudder to think what an army of humans with your particular sense of humor would do to the galaxy. We might never recover. Emma grinned. Hey, laughter is the best medicine, right? Maybe that's my real superpower. As the group dove into discussions about the next steps for studying Emma's condition, none of them could shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would redefine their understanding of life, the universe, and everything in between. In the following weeks, the Galactic Medical Center was abuzz with activity. News of Emma Johnson's miraculous recovery had spread, and scientists from across the known universe were arriving to study this unprecedented event. Emma, for her part, took everything in stride, facing each new test and examination with a healthy mix of humor and stubborn determination. You know, she remarked one day, as Dr. Brian Carter prepared yet another scanner, I'm starting to feel like one of those lab rats from old Earth experiments. At least you guys have better cheese. Brian's antenna twitched in confusion. Cheese? I wasn't aware that was part of your diet, Miss Johnson. Emma laughed. It's just an Earth joke. Never mind, you had to be there or here. As the days slipped into weeks, the full scope of Emma's transformation gradually became apparent. Not only had she survived the Relian flux, but her immune system seemed to possess an uncanny ability to adapt to and neutralize an astonishing range of pathogens in record time. Dr. Nathaniel Stone, whose ethereal presence had become a constant fixture in the medbay, was particularly captivated by this development. It's almost as if your body has evolved a universal translator for diseases, Stone explained, his mental voice humming with enthusiasm. It identifies the threat, decodes its structure, and then reprograms it to either benefit you or at least render it harmless. Great, Emma quipped. So I'm basically a walking antivirus program now. Do I need to worry about pop-up ads? Clara Williams, who had been learning about human culture in her spare time to better understand her patient, let out a soft, bubbling sound, which might have been laughter. I believe the term you're looking for is upgraded, Miss Johnson. You're Human 2.0. As exciting as these breakthroughs were, they also brought fresh complications. Word of Emma's condition quickly spread beyond the scientific community, drawing the attention of numerous political factions across the galaxy. Some saw her as a potential weapon, while others viewed her as a dangerous anomaly to be contained. The Galactic Medical Center soon found itself under mounting pressure from all sides. I'm telling you, Brian, this is getting ridiculous, Emma exclaimed one evening, pacing back and forth in her room. Yesterday, I could have sworn I saw a Zorgan spy trying to pass himself off as a potted plant. A plant! They don't even have chlorophyll on their planet. Brian's compound eyes flickered nervously. I assure you, Miss Johnson, we're doing everything we can to ensure your safety. Security has been significantly increased. That's not the issue, Emma interrupted, running a hand through her hair in frustration. I didn't ask for any of this. I was supposed to be on a scientific mission cataloging new plant species on unexplored worlds. Instead, I'm stuck in this high-tech fish tank, getting stared at by every species with even a passing interest in biology. Clara, who had been quietly observing the exchange, slithered forward. Perhaps, she began thoughtfully, it's time we considered alternative arrangements. Both Emma and Brian turned to her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. What do you mean, Clara? Brian asked, his antenna twitching slightly. Clara's bioluminescent spots pulsed as if deep in thought. We've learned a great deal about Miss Johnson's condition in the past few weeks. While there's certainly more to uncover, I'm not sure keeping her here indefinitely is in anyone's best interest. Not hers, and certainly not ours. Emma's eyes widened. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Because if you are, I might just kiss you, though I'm not sure how that would work with your physiology. Clara rippled with what could have been amusement. What I'm suggesting, Miss Johnson, is that perhaps it's time for you to return to your original mission, with some adjustments, of course. Brian's mandibles clicked rapidly, a clear sign of agitation. But the risks, the unknowns, we can't possibly— Can't we? Clara interrupted, her voice unexpectedly firm, surprising both Brian and Emma. We've confirmed that she's not contagious. Her condition is stable, and she's shown no adverse effects. Keeping her here serves no scientific purpose and, more importantly, contradicts our ethical obligations as medical professionals. Emma felt a surge of gratitude for Clara. Clara, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you've been studying human rights law. Clara's form shimmered slightly, a subtle sign of what might have been an Sivari blush. I may have done some extracurricular reading. Your species has a fascinating history of medical ethics debates. Brian's antenna drooped, a sign of reluctant acceptance. I suppose you're both right, but the logistics of such a plan would be complicated to say the least. When has that ever stopped us? Emma grinned, her earlier frustration giving way to excitement. Come on, Brian. Where's your sense of adventure? Before Brian could respond, the medbay doors slid open with a soft hiss. Dr. Nathaniel Stone entered, his glowing form pulsing with urgency, immediately drawing everyone's attention. I apologize for the interruption. Stone's mental voice resonated in their minds, but there's a situation that requires immediate attention. Emma's heart sank. Please don't tell me the Zorgon spy really was a plant, and now he's trying to hijack the hydroponics bay. Stone's form shimmered, a hint of amusement in his presence. Nothing quite so dramatic, I'm afraid. We've received an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. It seems news of Miss Johnson's condition has sparked quite an interstellar debate. Brian's mandibles clicked in unease. What kind of debate? The kind that could change galactic politics as we know it, Stone replied, his voice taking on a serious tone. Several factions are pushing for Miss Johnson to be placed under protective custody, ostensibly for her safety. But we all know the real motives behind such a move. A chill ran down Emma's spine. Let me guess, they want to study me. Maybe replicate whatever happened to my immune system. Exactly, Stone confirmed. Others are demanding full disclosure of our research, claiming that such a medical breakthrough should be shared with all sentient species. Clara's bioluminescent spots flashed rapidly. But that could be disastrous. We still don't fully understand how Miss Johnson's transformation occurred. Rushing to replicate it could lead to unforeseen consequences, not to mention the ethical concerns, Brian added, his scientific curiosity battling with his moral compass. We can't treat Miss Johnson like a specimen to be passed around for study. Emma, who had been quiet during the exchange, straightened up. A determined glint sparkled in her eyes. You're right. You can't, which is why I think it's time for me to take control of this situation. I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands, Emma said, her voice filled with resolve. The three alien doctors turned toward her, their various appendages and energy patterns conveying a blend of curiosity and concern. What exactly do you have in mind, Miss Johnson? Stone asked, his mental voice tinged with both weariness and intrigue. Emma began to pace, her mind racing with possibilities. Look, we all agree that keeping me here isn't a long-term solution. Handing me over to the Galactic Council or any other political entity? Not an option. So why not find a middle ground? Brian blinked his compound eyes rapidly. I'm not sure I follow. It's simple, Emma explained, warming to her idea. We go public with some of our findings, enough to satisfy the calls for transparency without revealing anything that could be misused. Meanwhile, I'll return to my original mission. Clara's form rippled with excitement. Your survey mission? But how would that help? Emma's grin widened. Think about it. What better way to study the long-term effects of my condition than by exposing me to new environments and potential pathogens? It's the perfect cover for ongoing research, and it gets me out of this medical fishbowl. Stone's ethereal form pulsed thoughtfully. It's an intriguing proposal, but are the risks any greater than keeping you here and waiting for some overzealous species to decide you're too valuable to be left in neutral hands? Emma finished for him. Exactly. Plus, this way, we control the narrative. We're not hiding anything, but we're also not handing over the keys to the kingdom. The alien doctors exchanged glances, their various appendages and light patterns conveying a silent conversation. Finally, Brian spoke up. It's unorthodox, potentially dangerous, and likely to stir up some serious trouble in the galactic community, he said, his mandibles clicking in what Emma had come to recognize as a smile. In other words, it's perfectly in line with how this entire situation has unfolded so far. Clara's form rippled with amusement. I must admit, the scientific possibilities are enticing. Imagine the data we could gather from such an expedition. Stone's mental voice thrummed with cautious approval. It would allow us to continue our research while respecting Miss Johnson's autonomy. Perhaps in time, we could use the findings to develop treatments that could benefit all species. Emma clapped her hands together, her eyes sparkling with renewed purpose. Then it's settled. Operation Get Emma Back to Space is a go. Over the next few days, the medical center was a whirlwind of activity. Brian Carter, Clara Williams, and Nathaniel Stone worked tirelessly to prepare a detailed report for the Galactic Council, carefully outlining their findings while omitting any information that could potentially be misused. Emma Johnson, for her part, threw herself into preparations for her upcoming mission, brushing up on her xenobotany and familiarizing herself with the modifications made to her survey ship. The day of departure arrived, a mixture of excitement and apprehension hanging in the air. As Emma stood in the hangar bay, dressed in her newly modified Envira suit, now equipped with a suite of sensors to monitor her condition, she felt a strange blend of emotions. Having second thoughts? Brian asked, his antenna twitching nervously as he helped her run through the final checklist. Emma shook her head, a determined smile crossing her face. Not a chance, though I have to admit, I'm going to miss you guys. Who would have thought I'd end up making friends with a bug, a blob, and a sentient light show? Clara slithered forward, her form shimmering with what Emma had come to recognize as affection. We'll miss you too, Emma. But remember, we'll be with you in spirit and via subspace communication. Don't forget your daily check-ins. As if you'd let me, Emma chuckled, patting the communication device strapped to her wrist. I'm pretty sure this thing would self-destruct if I missed a call. Stone glided forward, his form pulsing gently with urgency. Miss Johnson, before you depart, I wanted to share something with you, a gift of sorts. Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. A gift? You shouldn't have, Doc. Unless it's a get-out-of-medical-exams free card, in which case I'll take 10. Stone shimmered with amusement. Not quite, but I believe you'll find it useful nonetheless. He extended a tendril of light, which coalesced into a small iridescent orb. This contains a compendium of everything we've learned about your condition, along with some, let's call them intuitions, I've had regarding its potential. Emma took the orb, marveling at how it seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat. Wow, thanks, Stone. I'm not sure I understand half of what you've discovered, but I promise I'll study it. Stone's mental voice was warm with approval. Remember, Emma, you're not just carrying a unique physiological condition. You're carrying hope for countless species across the galaxy. Use it wisely. As Emma boarded her ship, Stone's words weighed heavily on her. She was no longer just Emma Johnson, botanist extraordinaire. She had become a walking, talking medical miracle, one that could reshape the future of galactic healthcare. The ship's engines hummed to life, and Emma felt the familiar thrill of anticipation that came with every launch. Strapping herself in, She caught a glimpse of her reflection in the view screen. Her eyes were bright, her expression resolute. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. "All right, universe," she muttered, a grin spreading across her face. "Let's see what you've got for me this time." With a final wave to her alien friends, Emma engaged the launch sequence. The hangar bay doors slid open, revealing the star-studded expanse of space beyond. In a burst of energy, the ship shot forward, carrying its extraordinary passenger toward new horizons and untold adventures. As the Galactic Medical Center faded from view, Emma couldn't help but laugh. She had come to this part of the galaxy to study alien plant life, and instead she had become the most fascinating biological specimen in recent memory. "Note to self," Emma muttered, setting the coordinates for her first survey site. "Update resume to include survivor of incurable disease and accidental catalyst for galactic medical revolution." That should definitely add some flair. As the vastness of space spread out before her, with the promise of unexplored worlds and new knowledge on the horizon, Emma felt a rush of exhilaration. She hadn't asked for this transformation, but she was damn sure going to make the most of it. After all, if there was one thing humans were masters of, it was adapting to the unexpected, and Emma Johnson was about to show the galaxy just how truly unexpected a human could be. Months passed, and Emma's mission took her to the farthest reaches of known space and beyond. Each new world she visited brought fresh challenges and groundbreaking discoveries, not only in xenobotany but in uncovering the full extent of her transformed physiology. On a jungle planet bursting with bioluminescent plants, she found that her enhanced immune system allowed her to communicate with certain species on a cellular level. This breakthrough led to the creation of new organic compounds that would forever change the landscape of space agriculture. In a heart-pounding encounter with a silicon-based lifeform on a crystalline moon, Emma's body adapted on the spot, reshaping her bone structure to survive under crushing pressure. The data gathered from this event helped create advanced exoskeleton designs, benefiting species across the galaxy. Back at the Galactic Medical Center, Brian Carter, Clara Williams, and Nathaniel Stone worked tirelessly, analyzing the constant flow of data from Emma's missions. Their papers quickly became the talk of the scientific community, sparking heated debates and inspiring a new wave of xenobiologists. "I must admit," Brian chittered one day, his mandibles clicking with amusement, "when I first met Miss Johnson, I never imagined we'd be rewriting entire xenobiology textbooks." Clara's form rippled with pride. "It just proves, my dear Brian, that sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries come from the most unexpected places, or species." Stone's ethereal presence pulsed in agreement. "Indeed, and I have a feeling that Emma's journey is far from over. The universe, it seems, has many more surprises in store for our fearless human adventurer." As if on cue, the communication panel lit up, signaling an incoming transmission. Emma's face appeared on the screen, her eyes gleaming with excitement, and her hair a wild tangle, likely due to gale force winds. "Guys, you're not going to believe what I've just found!" she shouted, her voice barely audible over the howling storm around her. "Remember how we thought my condition was unique? Well, hold on to your various appendages, because I think I've just discovered an entire ecosystem that works on the same principles as..." As Emma rapidly explained her latest discovery, the alien doctors exchanged glances. Their human friend had once again managed to flip their understanding of the universe upside down. On a distant, windswept planet, far from the familiar stars of Earth, Emma Johnson grinned at the face of the unknown. She had survived the impossible, defied biology as the galaxy knew it, and was now standing on the brink of a discovery that could change everything. Not bad for a human who had started out just trying to study some space plants. When she signed off, promising a more detailed report once she wasn't in danger of being blown off a cliff, Emma took a moment to reflect on the sheer absurdity of her situation. From a near-death patient to a galactic medical marvel, to potentially the discoverer of a biological breakthrough, all in the span of a few months. "You know," she thought aloud, securing her equipment against the storm, "I really should have read the fine print on that deep space survey contract. Pretty sure may accidentally become the key to revolutionizing galactic medicine," wasn't mentioned. With a laugh that was immediately stolen away by the alien wind, Emma turned back to her work. The universe, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor, and she, for one, couldn't wait to see what punchline it had prepared next. After all, in a galaxy teeming with wonders, the most miraculous thing of all might just be the unbreakable spirit of a single, extraordinary human being.